the Jewish people at different occasions sang a song of thanksgiving to Hashem, praising Hashem for miracles that happened. Generally, there were 9 such occasions, 9 such songs. When Mashiach comes, it'll be the 10th. So if you ever hear the expression that the 10th song, that's what it's referring to. So first of all, let's look here at page, I'm looking at the section, which is section 22A, but I'm looking at page 3 and page 4. Page 3 has underlined where it says, Shiru Hashem Shir Chadar. Sing to Hashem a new song. And then page 4, both of them are from davening. The first one is Friday night, and the second one is Shabbat, is every morning. The second one says Shira Chadasha, Shibchu Geulim. Shira, a new song the redeemed people will sing for you. We gave that introduction last time. If you look at the 2 words, one of them is feminine and one of them is masculine. The first one, it says, Shir Hashem Shir Chadash. Chadash without a hey at the end is masculine. Chadasha with a hey at the end is feminine. And the Gemara says that the difference is that when he uses the term feminine for singing, it's referring to singing the song of praise of Hashem for the redemption of the past. When he uses masculine, it's to describe the song we're going to sing in the future. Why is that? Anyone remember? The Gemara says what's going to be different in this Geulah than all the Geulah. By the way, Geulah in the past is not on Mitzrayim. What?
Because it's permanent.
Very good. Yeah. Because it's permanent. All the Geulas of the past, whether going out of Mitzrayim, going out of Babylon, going out of Golus in the time of Purim, going out of the Golus in the time of Hanukkah, each time we went out of Golus, we went back a little while later, or a long while later, we went back into Golus again. When we go out of Golus this time, it's going to be eternal, be forever. It's like the moon. The moon gets brighter and brighter and brighter, and then the moon, compared to the moon. And then suddenly the light gets diminished, less and less, gets to a point where it's almost gone and you think it's not coming back again. Thank God, it starts getting bright again. That's our history. From Golus to Geulah, from Geulah to Golus, from Golus to Geulah. When Mashiach comes, the fact that says the moon will be as bright as the sun, which means that it'll always be shining and it'll be eternal light. And the reason why the difference between feminine and masculine is because what the Gemara says is that when a woman gives birth, it comes with a lot of pain, which is the labor pain. Similarly, we go through Golus. The Golus is not chas v'shalom, just a punishment or something Hashem wants us to suffer or revenge for something we did wrong. Golus is always like a birth. It's really a process we need to go through to reach some sort of higher level, and reach some higher level of good. So when a woman gives birth, it's also, for whatever reason, we don't understand why Hashem made it that way, but the pain she's going through is to bring a child into the world, to bring a big blessing into the world. But nevertheless, it depends. If the baby that's born is a girl, so even though the pain subsided, now that she gave birth, there's no longer any pain. But when this little girl grows up and she'll be expecting a baby and giving birth to a baby, then it'll start all over again. So in other words, the birth of a girl represents the idea that the pain still comes back. The birth of a boy represents the idea that once there's going to be a birth, and then never again will be pain anymore. Won't be any more labor, meaning won't be any more pain. So I just want to go through what are the 10 places where we find that the Yidden sang the song. And obviously singing a song of praise is more than just thanking Hashem and praising Hashem. Must be something exceptional, something unique, to the point that it's a song that they're sung, and and therefore we don't find this all the time, only in 10 occasions. And I think there are differences exactly what the 10 occasions were, but some of them are very clear. The first one here on page 5 is what we read in the Chumash, and we read this in davening every day. Oz Yoshem Moshe B'nai Yisrael Sashir Azayis Moshe and the children of Israel sang this song. Vayenu Lema, and they all said, Ashir Hashem, let's sing to Hashem. Hashem is exalted. They took the horses and the riders and cast them into the sea. And then it goes on, thanking Hashem for the miracles of leading Mitzrayim and the splitting of the sea, and so on and so forth. But this was probably the first of the 10 songs, and in some way the most prominent because it's in the Chumash itself. What's the second one? Second one's on the next page, which is the same event but a different song. This is the song of the women. Vatikach Miriam and Aviyah, and Miriam the prophetess, who was Aaron's sister and Moshe's sister, she took the tambourine in her hand. But she and all the women came out after with tambourines and with dances. But Tamla had Miriam, and Miriam called out to them, Shirul Hashem, sing to Hashem, for very exalted. Horse and its rider you cast into the sea. So she sang a song. Were you ever wondering how come she was allowed to sing? The woman is not allowed to sing in front of men. What was the answer? What? Why she was allowed to sing? The women were dancing. So the answer is what? Oh, there's no pizza. The way that the water would rise so high, we got them. Now, the answer is that a woman not allowed to sing in front of men is something which came much later. Yeah, but there's a reason why there's certain things which came later and they didn't even before. So they can, let's say, we say Avraham observed the mitzvahs even before they were given, which means these are the mitzvahs which ultimately everybody will be eating matzah on Pesach. So even though the Torah wasn't given, they ate matzahs again. But these are laws that were particularly, they specifically were established because people became spiritually weaker. In other words, why was it? It's not in the Chumash. In the Chumash, there are certain laws that men and women, what they're not allowed to do. But let's say, like the laws of Yichud. Up until the times of David HaMelech, which is approximately 400 or 500 years after the Torah was given, Yichud was permitted. There was no prohibition against Yichud, which means that people were on a higher spiritual plane, and there wasn't such a concern that if they'd be alone in a room, it would lead to doing something wrong. And the same thing with the singing and the dancing. That these are things, because we have a certain weakness, the generation became weaker, therefore there were more laws that were instituted as a protection. These are called fences. To make a fence that it shouldn't lead to something inappropriate. But this was in an earlier stage, and people were in a higher spiritual place. So the whole idea of not singing in front of them didn't apply to it.
Rabbi Majeski,
Yeah.
could it be also a reason what it is said about like our forefathers and mothers that they lived in like in a Moshiach times, like the city saying they were living like in Moshiach times, so the same they applied here to them, like to Miriam and Moshe's.
It could be true, especially that at the time of Geulah. It could also be a possibility. Yeah.
So in the times could be like this loss of genius in the same way like it's now it will not
I think it says when you think the famous song that you think at a wedding, the song of Oy Yishavna Bar Yehuda, it says you'll hear Kol Chasam and Kol Kala. Or it says so I think it does say somewhere at that time, because people being in a higher spiritual plane, these restrictions won't apply. At which point, I'm not sure, has to be a certain point where somebody of authority will say, at this point, it no longer applies. It's not that everyone is going to decide on themselves, okay, We're so close to Mashiach now, it doesn't apply anymore. That's also a possibility. Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Why don't you have a little of these laws of speakers and everything, but we will not have the law.
That's the question that Peggy just brought up. So will these laws be applied when Mashiach comes? I'm not sure of the details, but could be some things won't apply anymore, and something might still apply. And each thing has to be judged separately. Where it comes from, what's the basis, what's the source, you know.
So it's just and I'm going to forget or nothing for.
No, she's closer, you're so further away. So let me ask you another question. You notice the same thing here. Look. Oz Yashir Moshe, Bnei Yisrael, Shira Hazois. Shira is feminine or masculine? Shira with a hey. Feminine. Who's singing the song? Moshe and the men. Right? And it's masculine and it's feminine. Look at Miriam's song. Vatan Lohem Miriam. The word Lohem with the mem at the end is masculine or feminine? Masculine. Who's singing this song? Miriam. So what's going on here? Miriam's song has masculine grammar, and the men's song is feminine. Well, this question was asked by one of the famous commentators on Torah, who is called the Shabbat. And it says that one of the things that was unique about the women versus the men was that the women took out tambourines when they went out of Mitzrayim. Why did they take out tambourines? Because they were so convinced that they're going to see amazing miracles. And there'll be so much to sing and dance and praise and thank Hashem for that they took it out. So the women basically, they had the confidence and the emunah in Geulah much more than the men. They were the ones who strengthened the men. So we also had this in the past. One of the quotes about Moshiach is that Geulah came in the merit of the women. And saying will be when Mashiach comes. In what way the merit of the women? Because Geulah comes as a result of having emunah and having faith in Hashem and trusting Hashem that we're going to go out of Golos. And who are the ones that had that faith and that trust? Those were the women, not the men. So it means that when it comes to the singing about Geulah, women were stronger than men. They were already singing before they even left Mitzrayim. When did the men start singing? Not only after they went out of Mitzrayim, after they went out of Mitzrayim, and after Kriyas Yamsuf, the sea split. And after the sea split, it said they still waited. They were thinking maybe the Egyptians are still alive, just like we came out over here. Maybe they came out from another side. Hashem made that the Egyptians that died, they should be able to see them on the dry land. Now that they saw that everybody is gone, they started to sing. Which means their song came after they saw with their eye that the danger is over. The women were singing before it all happened. So in the area of singing and thanking Hashem and trusting Hashem for the miracles, the women were stronger than the men. So therefore the women are masculine, meaning stronger, and then by the men, it says Shira, which is feminine. But it does say, it's a little bit difficult to follow unless you see it inside, or let me just try. It says that Asidim Yisrael Leima Shira Lefanecha. In the future, the Jewish people will sing to you, Hashem, for the redemption of the future. So the same Shalah asked the question, why does it say the word future twice? In the future, they will sing for you for the redemption of the future. It says in the future, so we know the redemption of the future. So his answer is that in the future, meaning when Mashiach will come, it'll be like it was by the women, that they'll be singing for redemption for the future, meaning not saying that when Mashiach comes, they'll be singing. Even before Mashiach is here, Yidden will already be singing and be joyous and excited about redemption before it actually happens because of their total trust in Geulah. This is one of the things the Rebbe kept emphasizing. We should sing and be happy because the Geulah is coming, which means that shows our confidence and our trust, or we believe that it's happening. Yes.
Yesterday, we had the president extending, and she said that she's having, or the Mara says that, they're not allowed to sing before they sing it. How it's connection, connections in these people.
Right. So there was a time that was one of the things why there was such opposition against Hasidim. The Hasidim went to singing and dancing and happy, and everybody was like, happy to be happy, happy to be singing, the listeners were destroyed, and all these things. And of course, it has to be based on Torah. And the basis is that once in the times with Baal Shem Tov, we crossed a certain line, which means now we started to come closer to Mashiach. And this wasn't singing for the purpose of entertainment, for the purpose of just having a good time, singing to express our confidence in Hashem that Mashiach is coming. And therefore, it's a positive thing. And as we get closer, even in our generation, the singing and dancing for Geulah is so much more even in previous generations. For that reason. It explains another thing. It says in the Medrash that when the Jewish people were singing the song, Hashem said, "My creation is drowning in the sea, and you're singing songs." Well, how could you sing songs when there are people, human beings that are drowning? The simple shot is always a simple shot. Whenever you say something deeper, it doesn't take away the simple meaning. There's another layer to it. So the simple meaning is that it was sort of a complaint to the Yidden. Why are you singing? How could you sing when people are drowning? Then there's a deeper interpretation, and Hashem is saying to you, now you're singing once you see that the Egyptian drowned. You should have been singing when you were still in Mitzrayim, like the women was singing. That was Hashem's complaint to you. So that's what we now have to make it up. By the way, does anyone know where it's written in the Torah that when Mashiach comes, all the dead will come back to life? Where?
Oh, no.
Shemon Esrei. But that's the davening, that's the Torah.
Maybe when, I don't know, maybe when, all the Jews were saying like by the Muslim kind of life, there was that when that's when,
Brought them back to life.
yeah.
That's true. But where do we know that in the future Hashem will bring everybody back to life? When Mashiach comes. That's in the past. So the actual, yeah.
But there also said, the rain, with the rain.
Do.
Uh,
DEW, yeah.
Made them like alive again, in the same.
Do will make us alive in the
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
So that's it in the matter, but in the Chumash, it talks more about what happened in the past, not what was going to happen. So there are a few, in the truth like this, in the Chumash itself, it's nowhere written. It's written in Tanakh, in the book of Daniel, a few other places, which says those that are sleeping in the dust will rise. I'm hoping that when Rabbi Dubov gave his class, when I was out on Moshiach Geulah, I think he was teaching all about Tzias HaMesim, those foods. So one of the sources is this custom. Look at the first word. Oz Yasher Moshe Bnei Yisrael. This is also grammar. What does Yasher mean? He will sing or he sang in the past. Right? According to Hebrew grammar, it should have said Oz Shar. When there's a yud in the beginning of a word, it could mean future. So really, it should have said Oz Shar. Moshe Rabbeinu sang this with the Bnei Yisrael. Yasher means he will sing. The Gemara says this is one of the places where the Torah alludes to it, hints that when Mashiach will come, Moshe will be back with all his people, and they will sing again to Hashem. One of the sources. There's another place in the Shema. There's a few places where it says this is where it alludes to peace and peace. Okay, so we have two songs: the songs of Moshe and the song of Miriam. Let's turn the page. Page 7. There's the parsha in the Chumash, which is called Hazinu. This is in the Chumash Devarim. We read it at the end of the year. It's the next to the last parsha in the Torah. Not next to, it's one of the last parshas in the Torah. You have it here on page 7 and 8. It starts on page 8 and continues on page 7. And it starts off Hazinu Hashemayim. You see that it's written in a format of a song. Listen, heavens, I will speak, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth. And this whole thing is, and then if you look at page 7, it says clearly by Pasuk Yud Zayin 17, Oz Yashri Yisrael, and the Jewish people sang this song. The song, well, sing to the song, and it goes on. Rashi explains that when the Jews were in Midbar, in the desert, this is one of the big miracles that happened to them. That they were going to pass a certain area which is between two mountains. And there was a tribe that came from Israel, the Amorim, and in the mountains there was sort of like little caves. They were hiding in those caves, and they were waiting for the Jews to go by. And when they would go by, they were planning to shoot arrows at them and to kill all the Jews as they passed by. They wouldn't notice them because they were high up in a mountain, and there was sort of a cave inside the mountain, so nobody would even notice them. Hashem made a miracle. What was the miracle? They were between two mountains. The other mountain had the opposite of the cave. It had different parts of the mountain that the rock was sticking out. Hashem made a miracle that two mountains came together like this. So the part that was sticking out went into the part that was a cave. And all those that were waiting there to kill the Yidden, unfortunately, they themselves got killed. And their lives were saved. The only problem is, no one even knew that the miracle happened. And it says Hashem did something in order to make the miracle known publicly. You know, it happens to us also, by the way. We don't even know every day what goes on, that you have miracles happen. How do I know we do it? Because when we daven, we say, thank you, Hashem, for the miracle that happened to us every day. Which miracle? And the answer is, these are miracles that we're not aware of, but Hashem takes care of those miracles. Sometimes the answer is no, what could have happened, what almost happened, and we see it. But the truth is, there's always things going on. Who knows what's being decreed in heaven? I remember reading somewhere once, it was an article about health. And they were writing how they believe a certain food, whatever helps, God forbid if a person has a Yonah Machla, and they write that there's sometimes where they take a CAT scan or MRI of a person's, let's say, liver, of a person's lung, and they find on it a indication that this person once had a tumor, which means they had it, it went away, the person never knew about it, and they're wondering, how did it go away just by itself? So they start thinking, what did the person eat? What was his food? What did his schedule? Maybe because he did this and that, it went away. But here's an example of a person that had a miracle. He never knew even to ask Hashem to save him. He didn't know that he was in danger. It was there, and Hashem took it away. So if he took it away, why did he bring it there in the first place? The answer is, if I would know Hashem's reasons why and how he runs the world, I'd be one of his advisors. We don't know, we don't understand these things. But what we do see is, there's things, sometimes we see things that we only find out later that I was in danger and this was a miracle. Now, everyone was told a story about a person who gave an example. The person who was a merchant. He would travel either once or two times a year to a different city. He would do business. He was very wealthy. He did a lot of business, made a lot of money, and would go back home. And on his way home, he would stop off at this inn. Usually, it's a very long trip. Those trips took sometimes days or weeks. Stopped off at an inn, and then he went on back till he got home. But the innkeeper, after a few years, realized that this is a very wealthy businessman, and when he's coming home, he's coming with a lot of money. So he planned that the next time he comes by, he's going to kill him, take all his money, and make his body disappear. No one have any idea that he did anything, and he'll become a wealthy man. So he was traveling in that same journey, and as he was getting ready, a lamp fell. His house got on fire. He was busy putting out the fire, and of course he couldn't stay there because of the fire, so that Jew moved on. But he had no idea that there was a miracle that happened there. Had there been no fire, then God forbid, this person would have killed him. So Hashem made a fire, so he should be busy with saving himself from the fire. In the meantime, he didn't stop off, then his life was saved. There's an example, and this happens a lot. We don't know what's decreed in Shemayim. In Shemayim, it could be a certain decree that this has to happen to this person on this day. And because today I gave tzedakah, because today I said a little Tehillim. I don't know if you heard the story or read the story, but Rabbi Jacobson, Mrs. Jacobson, she has two sons that are big speakers, one of the biggest in Chabad. One of them is Rabbi Yossi Jacobson, one of them is Rabbi Simon Jacobson. So Rabbi Yossi Jacobson tells a story about Rabbi Simon Jacobson. And he says, I saw a video that he says that he got an email from someone who was sent him an email and said to him, obviously he listens to his talks or he read his book, so he knew about Rabbi Simon Jacobson, sent him an email, and he says that I want to let you know that this is what happened. I am a rock star. I play rock music somewhere upstate New York. Maybe Poughkeepsie, I'm not sure where. I play rock music in a bar.
This was Poughkeepsie.
Oh, yeah, you know the story?
Yeah.
You saw it? Okay. Oh, yeah, that's where you are, right?
Yeah.
And you play rock music in the bar. Why? Does the shaykhah know in it? They know who this person is?
I don't know who he is, but I help people follow the story.
Good. So he said that while he was playing, that was the night that in Israel, October 7th, broke out. So obviously here at the Simchas Torah, really, he's playing in a bar. And he said, of course, he was moved by that. He said he didn't know if anyone in the crowd was even Jewish. So he made an announcement. He paused and he made an announcement. And he said, right now, this is going on in Israel. And asking everybody to take on something positive to do to make the world a better place, and there should be peace in the world. And that was it. And he said, next night, he had a dream. In the dream, he sees someone who said his name is Rabbi Groner. Who's Rabbi Groner? That was Rabbi's secretary. He says, the Rabbi sent me to give you a message. And the message is, thank you for saying what you did, because on account of what you said, there's a woman in the crowd that lit Shabbos candle that Friday night. And an account of her Shabbos candles for the soldiers that were fighting, and therefore he wants to say thank you. And I finished. He said, that was Friday night. Sunday morning, he gets an email from a woman, and the woman writes in this email, I want you to know, I was in the bar when you were playing, and you asked for people to make certain resolution, and I decided to light candles that Friday night. Just want you to know. And that was the news that he had. Why am I saying this? I started saying something. It's a big story anyway.
A miracle, but we don't know.
Right, so the miracle that we know. In other words, this woman lit the candles Friday night, and we don't understand, even though we all light candles, but we don't know what it means to Hashem. But this woman, this particular woman, we don't know her background, we don't know where she's from, we don't know what it meant for her to do it, but for her to light the candles, that brought tremendous light in the world. And the truth is, every woman's candle brings light. We just don't know what the effects are. We have no idea, we have no concept. So therefore, there are miracles that are happening all the time through the mitzvahs we do. Oh, I said, if there was any decree, how do I know what stopped it? I don't know. It could be something that I did today, tzedakah that I did today. I did a favor with another person. I brought a glass of water for somebody, maybe. Anything that could have been done, and that could be the reason. In that merit, Hashem made something happen. So there are constantly miracles taking place. So this is what this song is all about. Next one, number 9. Yes.
Why this is again in feminine, like as design.
Good question. We don't have Rashi here, so we have to look it up. It's in the answer. Why is the song that they sang in Hazinu feminine, Shira? Why not Shir? First of all, it could be that this song was sung by both men and women. It wasn't just the men. But still, why feminine and not masculine? Really good question. The next one is another miracle that happened, which is really one of the most incredible miracles. And not only am I saying it's one of the most incredible miracles, in the Chumash, in the Pasuk, not Chumash, in Tanakh, it said it's one of the most incredible miracles. What's this miracle? There was a war, and Yeshua was fighting this war. They almost finished the complete defeating the enemy, but as they're about to finish what they needed to do, it started to get dark. And in those days, they didn't have the technology we have today that you can see in the dark. So once it gets dark, you can't fight anymore. You don't know where you're going, what you're doing. So what did Yeshua do? He prayed to Hashem that the sun shouldn't go down. So the sun kept shining. And because the sun kept shining, they had a few more hours. In those few hours, they finished the war, they defeated the enemy, and it was over. And then he sang the song of thanksgiving to Hashem. And that's here, page 9 and 10. Again, it starts on page 10 on the bottom. And it says, and then Yeshua spoke to Hashem when the Amoraim, that was the name of the tribe, when he was able to defeat them. And the sun, it says on top of page 9, sun stands still in Gibeon and the moon in the valley of Elon. In other words, the sun and the moon just stop your rotation. And right now, by Yidin Hashem, the sun stood still. The reason why it says by Yidin, which means really the sun became quiet, is because the sun and all the things that Hashem created, they sing to Hashem songs of praise. And therefore, their singing is what makes them function. So you want them to stop and don't move, and it should continue to be, the sun should be shining. But look at page 14, number 14. There was never a day like that before or after that Hashem listened to the voice of a man for the fighting of Israel, which was such a miracle that the sun should stop. The sun and the moon, everything in nature is connected to this. That should stop for a few hours. That's something that's never happened before or after. When did it happen? Anyone know the date? Gimel Tammuz. It happened on Gimel Tammuz. Yeah, the sun did not go down. So he sang the song of praise, and that's another song of the 10 songs that they sang in the past. Number 11, page 11. Natasha, Dvorah, and Dvorah sang. Baruch ben Abinom and Baruch ben Abinom sang on that day. So this is another story in the Tanakh. It's in the book of the prophets. And this is in the book of Shoftim, Judges. There was a time where the judge of the generation was Devorah, which is another discussion. Isn't there a halacha that a woman cannot be a king or a leader? And here it seems that Geulah was the leader of the generation. So some opinions hold that even though there's generally such halacha, that was an exception to the rule. As you know, the general rule is that every rule has an exception to the rule. Even the rule that every rule has an exception, even that rule also has an exception. So she was an exception to the rule. And the other opinion is that she wasn't really in that position of leadership. She was the prophetess that they went through. She was the greatest prophetess in the generation, but it wasn't a position of leadership like a king or a judge. But anyway, she was the one who guided them in this war, and that was a war against, again, another enemy of the Eden, and the war was also won in a miraculous way. So after that, she sang the song. It's called Shira's Devorah, the Song of Devorah. And every year when we read the Parsha of Beshalach, and we read the song that the Jews sang when they went out of Mitzrayim, we know the Haftorah is always something similar. So this is what's chosen to read on that Shabbat. Because the Torah tells of a song that the Yidden sang, therefore the Haftorah is also a song that the Yidden sang in the time of Devorah. Yes.
I'm trying to see maybe come to answer questions, but I'm still thinking of the Hindu things. The song talks to three Hashem on Hindu Zionist. And this can really compare to the Rebbe or not? Like the Rebbe succeeded to you at one time, but people were ready for what you
The way people draw a parallel between that and the Rebbe is a little bit different. The Gemara says that every generation, when the tzaddik passes away, there's always another tzaddik in his place. Well, the Gemara says when the sun goes down, then a new sun rises. Yom was the sun never went down. That's what it is. It's also the day that the previous Rebbe was released from his jail in the story of Yiddish times. But this is definitely something which is significant. The Gemara uses the term to describe that Tzaddik's passing as the sun came down. When the sun goes down, and when the sun goes up. And in the time of the sun, I think came down.
Wow.
Now, David HaMelech, he had tremendous enemies. And you know that the David HaMelech's life was different than his son Shlomo. Shlomo, that generation was a generation of peace. It was a result of everything David did. David had many enemies. Not David, the Jewish people had to fight many enemies, and he fought all those wars. And that's in fact the reason why he didn't build the Beis Hamikdash. He made all the plans. He was the one who prepared all the plans, him and Shmuel HaNavi. And nevertheless, Hashem said, I don't want you to build the Beis Hamikdash because your hands have blood on it. Even though the wars were wars that were fought according to Hashem's instructions, and they were supposed to fight the wars, and it was done to protect the Jewish people, but it's still blood. And I don't want to debate in such a way. So the next generation was Shlomo HaMelech, and Shlomo HaMelech, in his generation there was peace. There was never a generation that was so much peace in the entire world as the generation of Shlomo HaMelech. But David HaMelech had wars, and therefore, when Hashem saved him from all these different enemies, he sang this song. Actually, there's a chapter to him. If you read that chapter and you read this chapter in the book of Shmuel, you'll see it's almost very similar. The words are almost similar. So in the Tehillim is the chapter of 18, which is also by the way, the date of the week. It's the third day in the month. And it has these words. The David HaMelech's song that he sang to thank Hashem for the miracle that Hashem saved him from all his enemies. He had enemies which were non-Jewish enemies. He had enemies within the Jewish nation that were against him. His own father-in-law, King Shaul, was against him. And nevertheless, Hashem gave him success, and he was able to overcome all his enemies, and eventually he became the king of Israel.
Knowledge.
Yeah.
So when you when the Jews, from what time the Jews know about the Moshiach, it's the end, it's the goal from the Quran.
The truth is, it's in the Torah. For example, in Parshas Vayechi, where it talks about the different tribes, when Yaakov was giving the bracha to Yehuda, in that bracha, he's telling him that you will be the one that Mashiach will be descendant of you. But again, this is hidden. This is in Rashi, in the Medrash. So we don't know if he said it openly to me, and they told him then. But in the Chumash, if you look at the Chumash, you might not see the word Mashiach. But Rashi, based on Rashi, that's what it means when it tells him that you will be the one, the ancestor of Mashiach.
So it's really when they say this was. So the people already know that this is not forever.
But we don't know if the people knew or only Shlomo Melech knew. For example, Shlomo Melech built under the Beis Hamikdash special compartment that when the time comes, they can hide the Aron and the Luchot. So it says he knew then that with all the greatness and all the rejoicing and all the celebration, that there's going to come a time when it's going to be destroyed. Well, he knew because it was another. Whether everybody knew, I don't know. Yeah. Okay, we have three more. I guess we'll do that Friday in the session.
What was the goal of the
What was the goal?
We were just reading the phone.
That itself was the goal, to build a house for Hashem. They had before the Mishkan, but that was all temporary. It moved from here to there, was destroyed. And he said this is going to be something that's just permanent. And it changed all the halachas also. From that point on, this is the only place where you can bring sacrifices to Hashem. It means Hashem.
What food? What food? There's two right. How you can be amazing. It's not my fault. Because asked. Someone asked me for the call. I know I'll be mine. I'll remember that for next time. I just won't make him. How could I? Oh, good. I also have, but it's not good trade. I never will be.
It's not good. Whatever. So, yeah. And so. Last. Yeah.